Today we've got three categories of boating necessities and safety gear coming at you. And no, we're not talking about the fun stuff like the surfboards or the wakeboard or tubing or anything like that today. However, the stuff we are going to talk about are things that are going to keep you safe on the water and keep you out of trouble. Let's get right into it. First up on the list is documentation. If you've bought a car, then you know one of the very first things that you have to do is you got to get it registered and titled with the state, and you've got to get insurance coverage on it. And buying a boat is no different in the sense that you must register it with the state or the Fish and Wildlife Commission, and you must carry insurance on it. At least that's what's required in North Carolina. And there's two main things there that you should do once your vessel has been registered. And that is attaching decals and registration to the side of the boat and making sure you have proper documentation with you on the boat. And for us, we use clear plastic waterproof pouches like this one here. This one's from a company called HEDA. As you can see, we've got our registration in there, insurance information, and any other sort of documentation that might be necessary. That way, if we do get stopped by the North Carolina Fish and Wildlife Commission or the sheriff, which we've seen both on the water in the lakes that we go to, all of your documentation is safe and secure right here. It's wet, it's not falling apart, it's just kept in a nice, safe place. We throw this one in our glove box, and I know exactly where it is in the instance that we are to get pulled over while on the water. In addition to keeping your registration and insurance information in here, you can also keep your boating license. In North Carolina, if you're born after January 1st, 1988, a boating license is required. I'm curious, what are license requirements like in the state that you're living in or that you're watching from right now? Let me know down in the comments. The second category we're going to talk about is the actual safety equipment that is required to be on the boat. I should stop doing that because that is loud. Whoa. Well, that seems like a lot, doesn't it? Well, really, it's just this main one on the bottom that's taking up all this space, but let's break it down. All right, first up on the list are PFDs, or otherwise known as personal flotation devices, or life jackets. Let's just call them life jackets. There are four different types of flotation devices. I say flotation devices because one of them is not an actual life jacket. And I have a couple of them here that we can go over. Before we talk about those different types, the most important thing to note is that you need at least one life jacket per person that is on board on your vessel. And that actually includes if someone is being towed behind the boat on, say, water skis or a surfboard or tubes. For everybody who is participating in recreational activities on your vessel, you need at least one life jacket. So let's talk about Type 2 PFDs. These guys right here. I got this 4-pack off of Amazon. Again, everything in this video will be linked in the description. Type 2 PFDs are designed to turn an unconscious person in the water from a face-down position to being on their back with their head slightly lifted out of the water. You all have seen this type of PFDs before. This is the most common. Matter of fact, I remember this is primarily what we had on our boat growing up. This might be a little small on me, but I'm going to give it a whirl anyway. But as you can see, they go around the back of your neck, and if you can get it around there, which I cannot, they would strap. I've got a lot of length here, I probably could figure that out. They would strap together, and it's going to hold your neck and head above water. This is definitely that emergency type life vest. You're not necessarily going to be using these tubing, doing water sports. However, you totally could if you wanted to, but you might look like a goon going down the water wearing one of these. You want these to be readily available on your boat in the event of emergency, as you want the rest of your life vests to be readily available. That way you can easily disperse these to your passengers on board to make sure that everybody stays safe, just in case of some serious event. The next type of life jacket we're going to talk about is the Type 3 life jacket. And this is that life jacket that you would use for those water sports type situations. Definitely more comfortable to wear for the water sports. These often have a combination of or just zippers and or buckles on them like you see here. This one is rather large. It is the one that I actually wear. I keep, I think, 5 or 6 of these on board in addition to the 4 Type 2 life vests, so that way when we have 9, 10 people on board, I do in fact have a life jacket for everyone. Usually when we have friends out on the boat, and they're bringing kids along with them, they'll bring life vests that their kids already fit into, so I don't have to necessarily worry about making sure all the kids under 13 years of age on my boat can fit into the life vest that I have on board. That's the Type 3 life vest. This one here in particular from Hyperlight, I really like this one. It dries out nice and quickly, it's comfortable to wear, and it works well for the water sports that we do on our boat. And the last required to keep on your boat is a throwable one like this PDF that I have right here. This is not to put your arms through, to be worn on your back. If you do that, you will end up face down in the water and could potentially drown. You pretty much always are going to want to hold on to them through the chest and use them to float. You use this in a situation for that person who fell overboard that is conscious and can get to something like this. Next up on our list is fire suppression and fire extinguishing devices. First off, I want to talk about the spark arrestor on our boat. If you own an inboard, outboard, V-drive, or stern drive like we do, then your motor should have some sort of spark arrestor on it, especially if it's a carbureted engine. Spark arrestor basically is where the air cleaner would normally sit on a car. It does exactly what it says, where it keeps any sort of backfire that comes through the carburetor, trying to keep that spark and flame that may happen from coming outside of the air cleaner area. The engine bay of these boats are typically very well closed off and don't have very good ventilation. That is why also it's important to make sure that your blower is working properly on your boat. The blower is essentially a fan that sits in the engine bay, and it grabs fumes and it pushes it out the side of the boat. You're typically supposed to run this while you're driving at slow speeds, like at idle through a no wake zone, and you always want to run it at least a couple minutes before you even start the boat. Next is a fire extinguisher, and for our size vessel, which is in the class of 16 to 26 feet, you need at least one Type B1 fire extinguisher on board. A B1 fire extinguisher, or this one in particular, are effective against chemical or liquid induced fires such as gasoline and electrical fires, which are both very common reasons that fires start on a boat. So make sure you have one of these on board, that it is charged properly, that it is in date. I think these things have a shelf life of amount of time that they're actually effective to, and if you don't use it, then you'll need to replace it, even if you've never touched it. So always check this. Check it every year before you go out, or check it every time before you even get out on the water. Make sure that you're in good shape there. Next up on the list are sound and light signaling devices. Probably one of the more important things to keep on the boat, especially if you don't have cell service or a VHF radio or power to your VHF radio, like your VHF radio has died. And here we have a whole host of different options for you. So we've got your traditional air horn. This is made by Better Boat. I love this company. They make a bunch of great products, from boat cleaning stuff to safety devices to anchor ropes and chains and even anchors. Great company, small business here in the US, and they just have a bunch of incredible products. If you watched my 20 Gifts for the Boat Captain video, you saw the Better Boat boat erasers that I had in there as well. So check that out. And on top of that, another sound device that you can keep on board is a whistle. God, that's so loud. I do believe the air horn is going to be more effective than this whistle, but if you can see other boats on the water and they're fairly close to you, this would be a great way to go ahead and signal them without using your air horn. Next, let's talk about light signaling devices, like this Orion Coastal flare setup that you got here. This comes with everything you need to go ahead and shoot a flare off in the air in the event that you're stuck out on the water and you need to grab someone's attention. This is going to work in both day and night situations as well, which is one of the great things that I like about this. This is kind of for that situation where either boats are far off in the distance, or you don't see any boats around you, or you're in a very dire situation, and to let people know. It's pretty much universal language that when you see a flare go off over the water, that there's someone out there that needs help. And one last thing, you could pick something like this up at most outdoor sportsman type stores like Sportsman's Warehouse or Bass Pro Shops or Gander Mountain. Is just this safety kit, which comes with a light. And let me give you a little pointer. If you're gonna buy this kit, make sure there's a battery in this light before you decide to try to use it. We got stuck out on Lake Hartwell this summer, and it was sunset. It was getting dark pretty quickly, and I pulled this out and realized there were no batteries in it. And we were almost stuck out there for the evening. I had to use a lid to a container that I had on board, and I waved it. Fortunately, there was a boat within distance that could see me waving this. I was waving it really wide-armed. and they came and helped us out off the water. Otherwise, it would have been an expensive trip with sea tow. Fortunately, these people were nice enough to go ahead and get us towed back to the boat ramp. Anyway, back to this kit. Comes with a light, make sure it has a battery in it. Has a little rope just in case you need to get towed, although I don't know that I would trust this with my boat. And then of course, another whistle. Doesn't have much in there, but it does have some things that will help you out. This is probably good for someone who might be canoeing, kayaking, or maybe even like a little John boat, or possibly even a jet ski, but not to replace all the rest of the necessary equipment that you need to have on board. And of course, another signaling device or communication device would be something like this VHF radio from Cobra Marine. This has a ton of incredible features packed into it, on top of the fact that the device itself actually floats. I've heard a lot of guys talk about how they keep this actually clipped on their side as they're out on the water to make sure that if they were to fall off their boat, they have a way to call for someone if they're not able to get back to their boat. Packed with a ton of incredible features like I'd already mentioned. This thing floats, has a noise canceling microphone in it, USA and Canada international channels. It has all NOAA weather channels and then also weather alerts that you can get right on this device. And it includes a locking charger dock and also comes with a 3-year warranty. We picked this up to go ahead and replace the old unit that was on our boat. I'm looking forward to putting this to the test next season, and I'll have to do a follow-up video and let you know how this thing does. But from all the other boating channels that I watch out there, this is the one that a lot of guys are recommending you get on your boat. Last on the safety list is this first aid kit. This one in particular is waterproof and it will float as well. It comes very well packed out with everything that you're going to need on the water to take care of those minor cuts and scrapes, or someone who may have injured themselves out there on the water. Everything's wrapped up nicely. It's going to stay dry. There's even an emergency whistle in there. You got gauze, bandages, Q-tips, tapes, cutting tools like scissors, just in case you need them while you're out there on the water. And everything is wrapped up nice and tight, so it's going to stay dry in this kit. We have actually used this while on the water, and it's such a great tool to have on hand just in case something happens to somebody while they're on board. One key tip for your first aid kit is, as you are using stuff out of this kit, make sure to go ahead and restock it. You don't want to find yourself in a situation where someone gets a cut and they need a bandage and you don't have what you need in this kit to take care of them properly. All right, the third and final category we're going to talk about today is just some general boating equipment that you should have on board anyway. First, drain plugs. Now, I actually put my drain plug in before I leave the house. I'm not sure necessarily if this is the right thing to do, but I do it as a safety measure so that I don't forget at the ramp. And if I do forget to put it in at the house, then hopefully I remember to do it at the ramp. I always check it when I get to the ramp. I'm always thinking about it, like, did it fall out going out the road, which I don't really see how this is gonna fall out going down the road. It grips tight enough to where I don't think it's coming out. Then I always keep an extra on board just in case. Maybe there is a situation where your primary plug has fallen out, whether it be on the water or trailering it. And so you always want to make sure you have that extra plug available when you need it. Next up are an anchor chain, and anchor rope. This is an older anchor right here that actually came with the boat, and this is actually my father-in-law's anchor that I inherited when he passed away. He was an avid boater and sportsman, and I am absolutely honored to be able to use his anchor. I'll be using this anchor starting next season. But I keep a 100-foot rope on our anchor at all times. This has worked in pretty much any situation I've needed it to, on Lake James, Lake Jocassee. I mean, you're not gonna be able to anchor down in the middle of the lake. This is not gonna reach. But when you're close to shore and you just want to pop out and swim in a cove somewhere, this is perfect to have on board. Next up on the list is something I don't actually even own. A depth finder or some sort of fish finder. I want to hear from you guys. What do you recommend for our boat? And if you don't know what boat we have, well, we made a video about that. I'll put it up here. But I'd like to just go ahead and get some sort of depth finder, fish finder for the boat for the situations when I do want to go fishing. I've got a buddy who makes handmade wooden fishing lures, and I want to do a video about that at some point and show you guys. They're absolutely the most beautiful fishing lures I've ever seen. That's for another video, and that's coming soon. But I have also drugged my skeg across bottom before in an area that was unmarked and wouldn't have known otherwise if it was too shallow to even boat there. Aside from just knowing the lake very well, which of course I did not. So a depth finder and a fish finder are on my list of items to get. And again, I want to hear from you guys. Tell me what you recommend. Next up, our dock lines. I picked up our dock lines off of Amazon, and I'm pretty satisfied with how they work so far. I haven't had any troubles with them. The rule of thumb is for your dock lines to be 2/3 of your boat's overall length. So in our case, our boat is 20 feet long. 13-foot dock line should do. So I bought 15-foot dock lines. Now, if you live in a coastal area where you're dealing with tides on a pretty regular basis, then you might want to go with a longer dock lines, especially if the tides in your area fluctuate significantly. But these work great, and like I'd mentioned before, everything in this video will be linked down below. Next, some spare parts. I've always heard it's a good idea to keep an extra propeller on your boat, and I am sure glad that I had one with me when we were on Lake Hartwell last summer when we were camping. At the time, I didn't realize I had lost my prop at the bottom of the lake, but once we got towed back to shore and I got the boat out of the water and I saw that we were missing our prop, I was glad that I had an extra one with me. This one in particular is the exact one that I lost at the bottom of Lake Hartwell, which reminds me, make sure you replace your cotter pins over top of your castle nut or castle washer every time you change out your prop. That is what failed, and that is what caused our nut to back off the prop shaft and to lose a $250 prop at the bottom of the lake. This one in particular is a Michigan wheel 4-blade. I'd been wanting to try the 4-blade, which we did for a short period of time on Lake Hartwell. In the 30 minutes that prop was on the boat, it ran better, it was smoother, it got up on plane quicker, and I think it's gonna work really well for tow sports, which is the main reason why I bought this prop. Currently, there's a 3-blade prop on the boat, but when we get into the water sports portion of next summer, this bad boy will be going on there and we'll be testing it out, and I'll be doing a full review for you guys on this one. Oh, and with that prop, make sure you've got a hub kit to go along with it. When I lost the prop, I also lost the thrust bearing, and the hub kits usually come with a thrust bearing. Next thing to keep on the boat with you is a good knife. If you watch my video about gifts for the boat captain, I included this Benchmade knife in it. This is a fantastic piece that was gifted to me, and I'm proud to keep this on the boat with us pretty much at all times. This works well for any situations on the boat where you need to just cut something up, or you even have this hook style knife on it. So in situations where maybe you can't get good leverage, you can get this up underneath it and get it cut out. Great for cutting stuff off the prop or cutting fishing line. And this knife would also be great while you're at camp. Check it out. This will be linked down below. And then of course, next up, some sort of flashlight. You know, whether you're looking in the engine bay or crawling up underneath the dash looking for stuff, or you're out there at night and just trying to poke around, it's great to have on the boat with you at all times. And always good measure just to leave some of this extra on the boat, because you might forget to pack it, but some sunscreen. We love the Sunbum products. They have great stuff just for facial applications, or if you're the type of person who prefers to spray on your sunscreen, or these handy dandy you know, lip balm style canisters. I'm yet to burn on a day when I've used this stuff properly. It works, it does a great job. We highly recommend the Sunbum products. Last necessity on your boat is going to be some sort of toolkit. I keep this one on the boat at all times. It's got metric and standard sockets in it. It's got screwdrivers with replaceable tips, so you can have pretty much any type of screwdriver you want on the boat. It's got its own set of hex wrenches, standard and metric again. This is a very well equipped kit and can get you out of tricky situations. And again, I've been there, I've lost props, I've had to work on the boat at the boat ramp, or you know, before putting in the water, or even on the water. This is a great thing to have with you, some sort of toolkit. Well, I'm probably missing something from this list, but I do want to hear from you guys. What else do you keep on the boat with you? What other products would you have mentioned in this video? Let me know down in the comments. Some things to expect from the channel as we move further into the winter season. I'm going to be spending a little bit of time working on the truck portion of our camping rig and doing some initial testing with that, because I haven't slept in this truck yet. I just picked it up this year. So I'm going to be doing some outfitting on that, so expect to see some videos coming down the pipe for that. Thanks, we'll see you next time.